Welcome to the CalSoft podcast series. This is your host, Mark Rodrigues. With me today, we are going to be talking about test automation and continuous integration using Jenkins. I have with me today three members of the CalSoft team. They are Poojan Jain, who is a senior software engineer.
Hi, Mark.
Nutan Nandanwar, who is a software engineer.
Hi, Mark.
And Samira Kumar Nanda, who is an automation engineer.
Hey, Mark.
Hey guys, a quick brief on these guys. Poojan and Samira come with experience in GUI. They have been instrumental in designing frameworks as per project and business case needs, and that helps them to deliver world-class quality products. As for Nutan, she is a software engineer who comes with end-to-end perspective and integration of various tools. Nutan helps deliver end-to-end feature automation with minimal manual intervention. So that's a quick update on these guys. Let's dive down into the topic immediately. What is automation and why is it used?
Okay, Mark. So I'd like to take you, I'll walk you through our day-to-day example. Suppose you are a tester and you are executing a bunch of test cases.
Right.
Say today you executed it, you file a bug. Tomorrow when you come to office, you get new build. You execute all those test cases against it, and all goes fine. But imagine this activity you are doing, say, for continuous 30 days. Of course, you will get tired. You will feel like being bored.
Yeah.
So, of course, being a human, we cannot do the same things with same time, energy, and with the same speed consistently every day.
Right.
This is what machines are supposed to do.
Right.
And I'll say this is where automation comes into picture.
Right.
And it's said that if software can do anything, then why not make software taste another? And that makes sense as well.
Okay. So, Poojan, are you saying that we should go for automation only when manual becomes monotonous?
Right, kind of. Think of this as say you have 1,000 test cases for a product, and suppose new feature is coming into product.
Yeah.
So now this new feature is not affecting the previously written 1,000 test cases. We go for regression testing.
Right.
So to test this 1,000 test cases again and again whenever new feature comes, this is kind of monotonous work, and it's a repeated task. So to get rid of such monotonous work, I think automation plays a key role.
Okay, so what I can understand from this is you're saying that with automation being the buzzword, a manual tester now loses his job. Is that what you're saying?
No, actually. So look, test automation is for helping the testers to make testing faster and in more reliable manner.
Yeah.
So think of automation as a car. Say you are driving a car to reach to your home. So if you don't use the car, you will reach in 20 minutes. But because you are using a car now, you will reach in 2 minutes. In both the situation, you are the same. You are a driver, being a human, you are the same. But now, as you are using a car, you are saving your time and energy. So car is basically helping you to reach to your goals faster.
Yeah.
And as your most of the energy is saved, you can utilize this energy in performing some other task.
Right.
So I'll say same goes for the automation as well, because automation can be used to quickly test most of your repeated, long and boring tasks, and save your time and energy to focus and test new areas and identify some more potential areas for test cases.
Okay, makes sense. So it seems like you've mentioned the pros and cons of automation. So can you tell us a little more about when should we go for automation and when not?
So, Poojan, I'd like to answer this question.
Sure, Samir.
So, Mark, when you talk about automation, then stability comes into picture.
Yeah.
So, what stability means over here? If a product is stable, then only we go for automation. Now, suppose a product is there, you have automated all the test cases for that product, then client immediately wants a change in the product. Then what will happen? It will result into a heavy rework, which is not at all acceptable. So at that time, I'll say, for an example, if a GUI page is there for a product, and we have automated all the test cases for that. Suppose what happens if client wants that I don't want these elements in that page and I want to remove all those, then what happens? The automation engineer will do it will again go through that pages, it will again collect some elements and try to find out those, then again start automation that. So it causes a heavy rework.
Yeah.
So I would say that when a product is 80 to 90% stable and clients has given a green signal to automate the test cases for that product, then only we should go for automation.
Okay. So, are you saying that automation is software development?
Okay, it's a good question, Mark. Actually, because these days it's said that if you are automation engineer, then you are not actually a software developer. So to answer this question, I would say this is a total myth. Let's look at what software development is.
Yeah.
If you develop a software, it needs best practices. For
Yeah.
example, it needs code reviews to write the quality of code. It needs a framework or design pattern to be followed. It needs constant maintenance. Maintenance is required. So these all things are included in software development process. So
Okay.
now let's look at the automation. So in automation also, if we are writing a good automation, then again code reviews comes into picture. Code reviews should be done over there. Design patterns or framework should be followed. Bug of the automation should be reported in bug repository. Source code of your automation should be placed under a source control like GitHub or whatever of your choice. So all these best practices also comes into picture in case of automation as well. So I mean, if you look into software development and automation, both are same. So in software development, what happens is you actually develop a product, and in automation, you develop a product to test the already written product. So automation is nothing but a code to check the already written code. So I would say that automation is purely a developmental work.
Okay. Pujan, you just mentioned a couple of times now about framework or design pattern. So what are the types of automation or frameworks used in this process?
Okay. So there are a couple of frameworks generally used to write the automation framework. First one is data-driven framework.
Okay.
So in data-driven framework, what happens is your test data is actually stored in external files. So
Okay.
when I say external files, it can be anything like CSV, Excel, YAML, or any constant files of your choice.
Okay.
So in script, basically I take the input values from that external stored files and I execute it.
Yeah.
So here let's take an example of calculator. Suppose I have a test case for addition this operation. So now in script I will take the inputs from externally stored file.
Yeah.
I will operate on those. I will take the output, and again this output I will validate it with the one which is stored in the external file. So here input data and output data, both these things are stored in external files.
Yeah.
And this data-driven framework is generally useful in places where the same test cases has to be run with multiple inputs. So that is where data-driven framework is really useful for.
And what about the keyword framework?
Okay. So as I mentioned about data-driven, where data is stored externally.
Yeah.
So in keyword-driven, data as well as your action, both these things are stored in external file. So meaning, let's continue with the calculator example. In calculator, in my script, I will take the input values and the action associated with that input. These both things I will take from the external file. Suppose now I'm checking, I have test case for addition. So addition, this action plus inputs, both things I'll get from external file. In my script I'll execute it, I'll get the output, and again I'll output this, I will validate this output against the one which is stored in external file. So these both things are actually stored in externally.
What about the hybrid framework then? Is that different as data and keyword, or is it the same?
So Mark, my answer will be no for your question, because I'll say with an example, like Pujan mentioned. There is a data-driven framework which will take input from an external file,
Correct.
and the data and the objects will be separated in two different files.
Okay.
Now comes keyword-driven comes into picture, in which data, action, and the object repository will be in different files. So what are the drawbacks over here is the object repository placed inside the scripts,
Mhm.
and it is a headache to maintain those object repository. Suppose a page is there, and you need to find out all the elements. You need to store in the opposite object repository. But whenever the page will change, then again you need to find those elements. Again you need to update those object repository and all those things.
Mhm.
So it is an headache.
Correct.
So these are the things which has been overcome in hybrid framework. Like, you do not need to keep a object repository file externally, because hybrid framework has placed these objects and locators inside the test case only. So how it will go, I'll explain it later. But now I'll say that example calculator. So suppose in data driven framework it is getting the values from the external file, and in keyword it is getting the action items as well as the input from external file. In hybrid, what will happen? It will receive the inputs along with the action items and the objects on which it is going to perform the operations. It will get from the test case file.
So Samira, how different is record and play framework?
Yeah, Mark, that was a good question. So I can say record and playback is an old architecture in which you used to record all the pages and need to save it in different scripts. So there is again an headache to store those scripts somewhere and need to maintain that. And one more point is there is a huge need of manual interventions. How I'll explain? Like, you can say someone is there who will record it, and he will give all the elements of that page to you, and again there is an user who will write the scripts according to the HTML elements. So there are more number of manual interventions are there. So next point will be extra tool. Suppose there is say hybrid framework is not there and record and playback is there.
Right.
So for record and playback we need a tool who will record for you and will give you all the elements in that page.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all the drawbacks in record and playback which has been overcome by hybrid framework.
Yeah.
In hybrid framework we do not need to record, we just go through there and find the element and keep it in the test case file. And again what we do is we do not need 2 people or 3 people to execute the script. 1 people will be enough to write the script and execute the script. So this has the advantage over record and playback of hybrid framework.
Okay, you've mentioned hybrid framework a lot. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, Mark. I'll simply walk you through the one possible approach of hybrid framework.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, hybrid framework contains, like its sub-architecture will be containing like 4 folders.
Yeah.
So first one will be the driver folder, second one will be the test case folder, third one will be the logs folder, and finally comes the report folder. So I'll explain it one by one.
Mm-hmm.
So first one is driver folder. So what a driver folder contains is a driver file. I can say driver file is a control of hybrid framework.
Yeah.
So I can say as well is the heart of hybrid framework, which decides which test case to be executed, when it is going to be executed, and under what environment it is going to be executed.
Right.
I'll give an example for that. Suppose one test case is there.
Uh-huh.
Suppose it is a GUI test case.
Mm-hmm.
So as you all know, for GUI test case we definitely need a browser.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a browser column
Mm-hmm.
in which we need to pass a browser.
Correct.
So as you know, there are different types of browsers
Mm-hmm.
in available in market. So suppose a product is there and you need to test it on suppose Mozilla and Chrome and Internet Explorer. It is mandate that this product should work on these pages or these browsers, right? So we can pass the browser name over that column. Again, third column is the iteration. What iteration means? Suppose user wants to execute the test case 3 times or 4 times. So accordingly we will pass the numbers. Accordingly it will execute that much number of times. So last column will come execution column, which
Mhm.
contains a flag that must be yes or no. Yes means the user wants to execute the test case,
Mm-hmm.
and no means the user wants to exclude the test case. So it's user's requirement that when he wants to execute the test case or when not. So that column is there to set a flag for yes or no. So this is the architecture what a driver file will look like. So next comes into picture the test case folder. So test case folder, as you all know, it can contain all the test cases about the product. And suppose your product contains different modules. Okay, so what you can do is you can divide into subfolders of name of that module, and you can keep your test cases inside that. So it is just a folder architecture, nothing else. So suppose I am telling about a manual tester. What he will do when he will write a test case, he will go for the test steps, inputs, expected outputs, and the summary of the test case, what the test case is supposed to do. So here the hybrid framework also replicates the same thing. It will be having the test steps, then it will be having the inputs, then it will be having the expected outputs. But the main difference between other frameworks and hybrid frameworks is it will be having the objects and the locators. So I'll emphasize on the object and locators over here. Suppose a page is there and there are different elements present over there.
Yeah.
So we need to find out the element on which we are going to operate. Then for the element we need to find out a locator. There are many types of locator present. So that must be ID, XPath, CSS, all those things. So accordingly we will pass the object and the locator inside the test case file.
Right.
So that what script will do, it will fetch all the things from the test case file and starts execution. So for an example I can give here. Suppose your test tape is there, put your name in that text box which is present in the web page. So my test tape will be put your name in that text box, and my input will be Samir, my name. And then it comes to picture object and the locator. So here object will be the text box and locator will be, it is dependent upon that page. It might be ID, might be CSS, might be XPath, whatever. So and my expected output will be Samir. When I put my name, I must verify that my name has been put over there.
Yeah.
So these all will look like a test case file. So next comes into picture logs file. Logs file is containing a file, log file, which is not meant for the end user. Actually the automation engineer will be using that log file for debugging purpose. Suppose there is a failure and the automation engineer go through that log file to verify whether it is a framework failure or it is a product failure, so that they can work on that. So it is for that log file is present over there.
Yeah.
And then finally comes report folder. It's a very important folder because all the reports related to the execution of the test suite are present over there.
Yeah.
So reports will look like it will be containing the number of executed test cases, number of test cases got passed, number of test cases got failed, and the pass percentage. So these all will be containing in the report. So report can be in HTML format or XML format or PDF format, which will be laterally shared with the stakeholders of the company. And if SMTP server is configured, then you can directly send those reports through mail to all your colleagues or stakeholders or manager like this. So I just explained the sub architecture of hybrid framework in a possible approach.
Brilliant. So when automation is done for a product, will there be any manual intervention required for triggering this automation?
So Mark, before answering to your question, I would like to introduce one term that is continuous integration. What exactly continuous integration is, it not only ensures feature by feature testing but also ensures end-to-end testing. To elaborate this more, consider a scenario where the development team is involved in development process. So at the same time, the testing team is involved. So what the testing team can do, they can start writing the test cases and work on that. If they found any bug, so what they'll do, they'll report it back to the developer. So developers start working on the bugs. Once they are fixed, they again push the refreshed code to the new build. Then again the testing team can start testing the code. So that's how the continuous integration process is there. So for achieving continuous integration, we have many continuous integration servers. So coming back to your question, the answer to your question is yes and no. So at a very first stage, when we configure the continuous integration server, so we require manual integration. Once the configuration is done, so at a later stage we don't require any manual intervention. What we can do is we can schedule a job and start triggering those automation. So we don't require a manual intervention. So we can avoid this by using CI server.
Okay. So you've told us in detail about continuous integration, but how is this different in the agile and the waterfall model? Is there any difference at all?
Yes, there is difference. In conventional waterfall model, the process are followed in sequential order. Like the requirement phase is there, then after development phase comes into picture, and once the whole development process get completed, then again the testing team is involved. So that's how the sequential process is there.
Yeah.
And consider a scenario where the developer developed the whole code product, and then it gave it to testing team. So what testing team will do, they'll start testing the code. So suddenly if the customer says that I don't want this feature, so the time required for developing the whole product is humongous. So there is lot of rework. So what Agile did is, in Agile we have the concept of continuous integration.
Yeah.
So as I said, in continuous integration, when the development phase is going on, the testing team is also involved in that. So what the testing team will do, if they find bug, they report it back. And if they are fixed, so again the developer team will push back the features to will push back the refreshed code into the existing build, and then the tester can start testing again the build.
Yeah.
And once the development team will finish with the one feature, they can start working on another feature.
Right.
So after developing the another feature, they'll again merge the code with the existing code, and again the testing team will start testing the existing test cases as well as the newly written test cases. So that's how regression and test automation comes into picture. Like when the new build is there, so to check the stability of the product, we do sanity testing. And once the sanity testing is done, we continue with the regression testing, like executing the existing test as well as the newly written test cases.
Okay. Nutan, what are the benefits of continuous integration?
As I told that continuous integration is basically ensuring the feature by feature and end-to-end testing. This is the main benefit of continuous integration. Feature by feature testing is like when the one feature is developed, the testing team will start testing the feature, and if there are bugs, so they will report it back. And the developers start again working on that feature. So that's how the feature to feature testing is done. And about the end-to-end testing, when there is a scenario like when we develop the code in modules, so there may be chances that the module will run okay, right? And when we integrate those modules, so there may be chance that there may be integration problems. So to avoid that, we do regression testing. So that's how we achieve end-to-end testing. So this is the main feature. And by using continuous integration, we can detect the bug at a very early stage.
Yeah.
And we can catch the issue fast. And by using continuous integration, the build is deployable at any given time.
Okay.
These are the benefits.
Okay. And there are any tools available for this?
Yes, there are many tools available for that, like Electric Flow,
Okay.
TeamCity, Bamboo, Cruise Control, and one of the famous tool there is Jenkins,
Okay.
through which we can achieve the continuous integration.
Okay. You want to throw some light on Jenkins?
Yes. So by using Jenkins, as I explained about continuous integration, so Jenkins is a tool through which we can achieve that. So whenever the new build is getting pushed, so what the testing team can do, they'll pull out the code and start triggering the automation. So through Jenkins, we can integrate SVN, we can make a build of that code
Yeah.
by using Ant and Maven, and we can start triggering those runs. We have another feature in Jenkins, like we can build a pipeline view.
Okay.
What this exactly is, we can pipeline the jobs. We have different jobs, so if you want to run the one job after another, so we can pipeline that.
Oh, you automate that. Okay.
Yes, we can automate that.
Okay. Brilliant. So that's a wrap on our topic today. We've learned quite a bit about test automation and continuous integration, and Nutan at the end threw quite a light on Jenkins as well. So it is wonderful having you guys on the show. Thank you so much. I hope to see you guys again.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
That ends our podcast. If you have any feedback for us, you can write to us at marketing@calsoftinc.com. If you'd like to hear about anything else in the future, please do let us know. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.